So yesterday we looked at determining whether lines were parallel or perpendicular. We said that if lines are parallel, it means that they're going at the same angle, which means that their slopes are the same.
What page?
100. If lines are perpendicular, we saw that meant that their slopes are negative reciprocals. And what that means is you take the slope of the first line, you flip it over and change the sign. If that happens, then the two lines are perpendicular. We also said that when lines are perpendicular, you multiply their slopes together, you'll always get -1 as the answer. So that's how we tell whether lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. And we also learned yesterday that King owes me a pop. No, he didn't bet double or nothing. He was afraid. Oh, really? One from before? Okay. All right. Oh, really? So there should be interest on that one as well.
If you get the total number,
John, shut up.
he owes you like 4 pops
Really?
or 5.
Well, let's go with 5. That's a nice round number. That's how many fingers that you have on your hand. And if you don't pay me, King, you're going to lose one of those fingers.
Nothing. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Looking at that first question, we want to say whether the lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. Do we know the slopes of those two lines, Brock? What are they? Are those the same? So are they parallel? No. Are they negative reciprocals? You don't think so? Why not? That's right. They're not negative reciprocals because not only do they have to flip over, which that part happened, but the sign must also change. So they're not negative reciprocals. These two lines will intersect, but not at 90 degrees. This would be a neither scenario. They're not parallel, they're not perpendicular. Again, this means that they will cross somewhere, but not at 90 degrees. Looking at question B, Princess, do we know the slopes of those two lines? What are they? How do we know that they're 3? Well, because they're both in slope-intercept form. Remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. If you have positive y by itself on one side, usually you'll have two terms on the other side, one at the x, one that doesn't have an x. The coefficient of x tells you the slope. So, Peyton, are these two lines parallel? Because their slopes are the same. These two lines will go at the same angle. They will be parallel, which means they will never intersect. They will never intersect. Looking at the equations for question C. Olivia, do we know the slopes of those two lines? Do we know the slope of any of the lines? That's the slope of the first one. So what do we need to do to find the slope of that second line? What is slope-intercept form? Y equals mx plus b. We need to get positive y by itself. So if we start with the original equation, we want to get positive y by itself. I would subtract the 5x from both sides because the y term is positive, positive 2y. The 5x is negative on the right, so I'll write it as negative 5x. And the reason I put it there is because y equals mx plus b. Normally we put the x term first. You don't have to, but normally that's how we write it. Are we done, Sophia? Do we know what the slope of that line is? What do we have to do? Yeah, we got to get positive y by itself by dividing everything by 2. Now we have positive y by itself on the left. It'll be negative 5 over 2x plus 4. So what's the slope of the second line, Jan? Are the two lines parallel? Why are they perpendicular? Because their slopes are negative reciprocals. If you take the first slope of 2 over 5, you flip it over and change the sign, it becomes negative 5 halves. Also, if you multiply the two slopes together, you're going to get negative 10 over positive 10, which is negative 1. When the slopes are negative reciprocals, their products will be negative 1. Okay? Example 2 says, write an equation involving a parallel line. We want to write the equation of a line that's parallel to 2x minus y plus 4 equals 0, and also passes through the point 1, negative 6. So if it's parallel to 2x minus y plus 4 equals 0, that means it'll have the same slope of the line. Do we know what the slope of that line is, Chloe? Why not? Sorry? Because it's in general form. So what do we need to do? Yeah, we're going to put it in slope-intercept form by getting positive y by itself, and that can be done just by adding y to both sides. So you have 2x plus 4 on the left equaling y on the right, and that's the same thing as y equals 2x plus 4. Roddy, do we now know the slope of this line? What is it? Positive 2, that's right. So we want to write the equation of a line that has a slope of 2 and goes through the point 1 comma negative 6. That's what we want to do. And we can do this using the point slope form of a line. Remember, point slope form is y minus y1 equals m bracket x minus x1. y1 is negative 6, so it'll become y minus negative 6 equals m, which is 2 bracket x minus x1 is 1. The minus minus becomes a plus positive, so it'll be y plus 6 equals and it does ask us to write it in slope-intercept form, then general form. So when I multiply out the brackets on the right, you're multiplying both the x and the minus 1 by the 2 in front. And then we would subtract 6 from both sides to get it in slope-intercept form, because you'll have positive y by itself. Negative 2 take away 6 is minus 8. That's in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. Right, so that's part A. Part B asks us to write it in general form, which remember, everything on one side equal to 0 on the other, no fractions or decimals, and the x term is positive. The x term is positive, so I would leave the 2x on the right. I will bring the y over by subtracting it from both sides, and the minus 8 stays on the right. It doesn't move, so its sign doesn't change. So there's the equation in general form. Part C says use technology to verify that the lines are parallel. Now we don't really have to do that because both the lines have the same slope. The first line is y equals 2x plus 4. That's a slope of 2. The second line is 2x minus 8. Again, that's a slope of 2. But we can still put them in our calculator. 2x plus 4 is our first equation. Our second equation is 2x, whoops, let's try that again, 2x minus 8. So both equations are in there. I'm going to go zoom, which is this button in the very middle of the top row, and choose number 6, which is zoom standard. that sets our windows to -10 and +10 on both the x and the y axes. So when you look at them like that, you can see that they're parallel. But we knew that from the equations. Their slopes are the same, so they have to go at the same angle. They will be parallel lines. Okay, this next slide, choose the equation for the line that is parallel to the line passing through 3, -6 with a slope of 1/3. So the slope is 1/3. If we look at all these equations, I'm sure it is -1/3. The negative sign is just on the previous line at the end. So all three of these equations have a slope of -1/3 because that's what m is, right? These are all in y equals mx plus b. So we can't eliminate any of the answers by that. Each of these lines has a different y-intercept though, right? -5, +5, -9, +9. To see what the right answer is, we're going to have to write the equation of the line with the slope of -1/3, and again passing through the point 3, -6. And the easiest way to do this is use that point slope form. y1 will be the y coordinate at the point, which is -6. And that equals -1/3 bracket x minus x1, which is 3. What now, Brock? Put your phone away. Pardon me? I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Well, you're not supposed to have it out during class time. You've been really good lately, that's true. But I don't want it to start again. Okay, just one text and that's it, you're done? Okay. So the minus minus becomes a plus positive. You'll get y plus 6 equals. On the right side, we need to multiply out the brackets. -1/3 times x is -1/3 x. And -1/3 times -3 will be +1. And you can use your calculator to help you do that if you need to. So if you go in brackets, -1/3, there's our -1/3, and we multiply that by -3, you'll get your answer of +1. So that's where the +1 at the end comes from. And now, to get y by itself, we would have to subtract 6 from both sides. And we'll get y equals -1/3 x. 1 take away 6 is -5. So now we know that A is the correct answer. Now there's another way you could have done this. You could have checked each equation. If a line passes through the point 3, -6, that point must satisfy the equation. So this would be another way that we could get this. So let's say solution number 2. So again, what this would involve, it would involve taking each equation until you find the one that the point 3, -6 satisfies. In other words, when x is 3, y needs to be -6. Y is -6 when x is 3. So it's -1/3 times x, which is 3. -1/3 times 3 is -1, and -1 minus 5 does equal -6. You get the same thing on both sides. This is the only equation that will work for. If you check the other three equations, they won't work. You won't get the same value on both sides of the equation, right? The point is 3, -6, so in each case, the y value is -6. So when you let x equal 3 in those other three equations, you won't get -6 on the right. So you'll get a different number. And that would show that that point does not lie on that line. Okay, so again, you could have done it just by checking each equation, and it just so happens that the first equation was the answer, so you'd only have to check that one equation. So again, we want to write the equation that contains the point 5 comma 2 and is parallel to 3/5 x minus 4. So in this case, we can eliminate equation B and D because both of those equations have negative 3/5 slope. So now we only have to work with either equation A or C. And so for this one, I'm going to check it by seeing which equation is satisfied by the point 5 comma 2. So if we start with that first equation, y equals 3/5 x plus 1. Again, the point that I'm going to check is the point 5 comma 2. So y is 2 when x is 5. So on the right side, it's 3 over 5 times 5 over 1. The 5's actually cancel. And you'll get 3 plus 1, which is 4, not 2. So that shows that it does not work for that first equation. So the only one it could work for is equation C, but let's just check to make sure that it does. So again, we're checking the point 5 comma 2, meaning y is 2 when x is 5. So again, that 5 is 5 over 1. When you look at it like that, the 5's cancel, and you're left with 3 minus 1, which is 2. This one does give you the same value on both sides. So that confirms that that is the right equation. So you can do it either way. You can actually write the equation with the information you're given, or you can check the point that you're given to see which equation that point will satisfy. They both work. But now we're doing a perpendicular one. Choose the equation for a line that's perpendicular, perpendicular to the y equals 4x minus 3, and it passes through the point 2, negative 1. So the slope of the line we're given, we'll say M1 is positive 4. Princess, what will the slope of the perpendicular line be? Well, the first line has a slope of 4, which is 4 over 1. So what will the slope of the line that's perpendicular to that be? Jan? Negative 1 over 4. Remember, they're negative reciprocals. You flip it over and change the sign. That's how we know whether lines are perpendicular. Their slopes are negative reciprocals. So now we can use point slope, which is the form that these equations are written in. They're all written in point slope. We know that m is negative 1/4, so that eliminates A, that eliminates B, and that actually eliminates D as well. There's only one left that should work, and that is C. But just to make sure, let's check. It goes through the point 2, negative 1, so y1 is negative 1, and that equals negative 1/4 bracket x minus x1, which is 2. Again, the minus minus becomes a plus positive. On the left side, on the right side, you'll have negative 1/4 bracket x minus 2. So there we go. We just confirmed that that is the correct equation. It is the correct equation. Okay, so let's continue on. What is the equation of a line that passes through the point 3 comma 0 and is parallel to the line y equals negative 2x plus 3? So that equation is in slope-intercept form. Y equals negative 2x plus 3. What is the slope of that line, Declan? And if our line is parallel to it, what will its slope be? Also negative 2. So our slope is negative 2. All the equations we have to choose from have a negative 2 slope. So that doesn't help us. we're going to have to find the equation. These equations are in slope-intercept form, so we're going to have to figure out what the equation is, and we will use point slope to do that. You'll get y minus y1, which is 0, right? Our line goes through the point 3 comma 0, equals m, which is negative 2, bracket x minus x1, which is 3. So you'll get y equals negative 2x plus 6 when you multiply that out, which is equation D. Once again, you could have gone through all 4 equations and found the one that the point 3 comma 0 works for, and it would be the last one. When x is 3, y needs to be 0. If you let x equal 3 for the first one, negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. Take away 3 is negative 9, not 0. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6, plus 3 is negative 3, not 0. Right? It's got to satisfy the point 3 comma 0. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. Take away 6 is negative 12, not 0. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6, and negative 6 plus 6 does give you 0. The point 3 comma 0 does satisfy that equation. So could have done it that way as well. This next one, we want to write the equation for the line that's perpendicular to y equals 5/3 x minus 4. So that's our first slope, and passes through the point 5 comma 2. So if our line is perpendicular to that, Emil, what must its slope be? You sound really confident. Is he right, Ava? Yes. Negative reciprocal. You flip it over and you change its sign. So our line must have a slope of negative 3/5, which all 4 of our equations do. So we can't eliminate any of them that way. Let's write the equation of our line once again using point slope. It passes through the point 5 comma 2. So y1 is 2, m our slope is negative 3/5, x1 is 5. So on the right, when you multiply out the bracket, you'll have negative 3/5 x. When you multiply negative 3 over 5 times negative 5, a negative times a negative is a positive, and also the 5's will cancel, so you're just left with the 3. And again, you can do that on a calculator to help if you need to. No problem with that. In brackets, negative 3 over 5, close the bracket. That's being multiplied by negative 5. You get your answer of plus 3. But we're not done because we have to get y by itself by adding the 2 to both sides. And now we can say y equals negative 3/5 x plus 5, which is equation C. That would be the only equation that satisfies the point 5 comma 2. The only one from these that we have to choose from. Okay. So if we skip that page because it's not working, write the equation of a line that's parallel to that line and passes through the 5.5 negative 6. We want to write it in both slope-intercept form and general form. So it's parallel to the line 3x plus y plus 3 equals 0. Do we know the slope of that line, Keen? Why not? Do we know the slope of that line? You said no. Why not? Because the y is what? It's not by itself. It's not in slope-intercept form. And because you want positive y by itself, and it is positive there, I would leave the y on the left side and move the 3x and the 3 over to the right side by subtracting them. That'll give us y equals negative 3x minus 3. So what's the slope of our line, Brooklyn? And we want to write the equation of a line that's parallel to this line. So what would our second slope be? That would only be true and actually positive 1/3 if they were perpendicular, but in this case they have to be parallel. So the slopes must be the same. So we're looking for the equation of a line that has a slope of negative 3, and passes through 5, -6. Which we can do using point slope. So y1 is -6, and that equals m, which is -3 bracket, x minus x1, which is 5. The minus minus becomes a plus positive. So we'll have y plus 6 equals. We want to write it in both slope, intercept, and general form, which means we're going to multiply out the brackets on the right. -3 times x is -3x. -3 times -5 is positive 15. And then we'll subtract the x from both sides to get y by itself. 15 take away 6 is plus 9. So there's the equation in slope-intercept form. General form, remember, everything on one side equals 0 on the other. No fractions or decimals. X term must be positive. There's no fractions or decimals here. We've got things on both sides, so we need to fix that. Also, because the x term is negative, we need to make it positive. I would add 3x to both sides. I'll keep the y over on the left. The 9 you bring over by subtracting it from both sides. There's the equation in general form. Okay? All good? Let's skip and go to page number 111. We want to write the equation of the line perpendicular to 3x plus 2y minus 6 equals 0. And having an x-intercept of 9, which means it goes through the point 9, 0. The x-intercept, remember, is where y is 0. So that's not to be confused with the y-intercept, which is what you get if you put it in slope-intercept form. You get the slope and the y-intercept. This is the x-intercept. So there is no equation that we can use to get the x-intercept just by looking at it. It only works for slope-intercept form where the constant term, the b-value, tells us the y-intercept. Okay, so perpendicular to this line here. Emery, do we know the slope of this line? Why not? Not in slope-intercept form. How do we put it in slope-intercept form? What do you need to get? Because I asked you, that's why. Y by itself. Positive y by itself. So the y term is positive 2y, which means I'll bring the 3x over to the right by subtracting it and also adding 6 to both sides. So that'll give me 2y on the left equaling negative 3x plus 6 on the right. Now do we know the slope, Liam? Do we have positive y by itself completely? No, because there's a 2 in front. How do you get rid of the 2? That's right. Now we have to divide everything by 2. See, Jan, I told you he was smart. You keep saying he's not. He is. Don't be so mean. So now we have positive y by itself. On the right side, we have negative 3 over 2x plus 6 divided by 2 is 3. Now, Kai, do we know the slope of this line? What is it? That's right. It's negative 3 over 2. So the line that we want to write is perpendicular to that. So what will the slope of that line be, Princess? If the first line has a slope of negative 3 over 2, and our line is perpendicular to that, what must its slope be? Positive 3 over negative 2? You want to bet a pop on that? Is she right, Emery? You don't know. You want to pop? You flip it over and you change its sign. No, it's positive 2 over positive 3. You flip it over and you change its sign. Yeah, you did. In fact, I think you said you wanted to bet 2 pop. Okay? And so it's going to have a slope of 2/3 and it's going to pass through the point 9, 0. So again, we'll use point slope. And y1 is 0, so that makes things a little bit easier because y minus 0 is just y on the left. And then we'll have x minus 9 in brackets after the 2/3 on the right. So y minus 0 is y. On the right side, if you multiply out the brackets, it'll be 2/3 times x. And if you multiply 2/3 times negative 9, a positive times a negative is a negative. 9 would be 9 over 1. When you multiply fractions, it's top times top, bottom times bottom. 2 times 9 on top is 18, over 3 times 1 on the bottom is 3. 18 divided by 3 is 6. But remember, you can also get this by using your calculator. Go 2 divided by 3 in brackets, there's your 2/3, times 9 gives you the 6. And it's negative 6 because it's a positive 2/3 times a negative 9. So there's the equation in slope-intercept form, which we were asked to do. So there's slope-intercept form. Now, for general form, remember you can't have any fractions, so that's where I would start. So once again, this is slope-intercept form. For general form, you can't have any fractions. So I would start by multiplying all 3 terms by the common denominator, which is 3. So 3y will equal. So on the right side, the 3's will cancel. That's why we multiplied by 3, so that happened. We're left with 2 times x, and then minus 6 times 3 is minus 18. The x term is positive, so we'll keep it on the right side. We'll bring the 3y over. The 18 didn't move, so it stays minus 18. There's our equation in general form. Okay? I think we'll stop there. So on page 114, you'll find the assignment that you're going to hand in for marks. Remember, Monday, you're going to have a quiz on 7.4.
Oh, no.
Well, you're going to have to know all this stuff, but you'll be given the formulas, okay? Wednesday is your unit exam, and so I'm going to hand out your unit review right now, so you have it. You can start working on it over the weekend. Okay, I hope you get ready for your test, which is Wednesday. But quiz on Monday, okay? Keen, I'm not qualified to give the kind of help you need.